There you go. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Alyssa. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good as well. Thank you so much. And also, thank you so much for being here. It is super cool to have someone as talented as you here on the show. So, before we start, I have to give you an epic welcome. So, if you have seen some of my episodes, you know exactly what I'm about to do. If not, that's fine. Let me show you then.
I'm very excited.
There you go.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very sweet.
There you go. I know.
That's awesome.
Now, starting with the whole interview now, tell me like how your acting career started.
Oh my gosh. So, wow, it feels like a long time ago. I'd say 4th grade actually. So I've been doing it for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I've been singing ever since I was very little. My family can attest to that. But yeah, I did my first show in 4th grade. I was an Annie. And I was Miss Hannigan, if you know the show, and I've kind of just been smooth sailing since then. So for a very long time, I've been doing theater.
That's amazing. So on your website, we will see your resume. So let's start with educational theater. So we will see plays such as Wizard of Oz, The Crucible, The Sound of Music, The Link, Macbeth, The Magic Flute, Darling, and Wonderland. So tell me, what are some of the highlight moments that you had during those plays?
Yeah, sure. So that's sort of a mixture between both high school and college. I kept most of them are university level theater, but I wanted to keep some of my favorites from high school, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd say it's been really interesting, the difference between high school theater and collegiate theater, because I remember doing my first show. I go to NYU for musical theater, and the difference in, the levels between the two is so different. But sort of starting, I guess, at the beginning of them with high school. Yeah, the high school ones that I did on there are Wizard of Oz, the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, The Crucible, and Sound of Music. And those were just, to be complete, even though they were in high school, were 4 of my favorite theatrical opportunities, especially The Sound of Music. My friends still make fun of me because I still talk about it, even though it was over 5 years ago, because I just had so much fun doing that, and I got to play Maria, and it was just, I would give my left arm to play Maria again. I absolutely adore her. But then in collegiate settings, I've been really fortunate to do a very big variety of shows. I've done straight theater, I've done Shakespeare, I've done musical theater, I've done opera. So it's been a very interesting variety, and some of those shows also have been re-established. Some are workshops. So for example, the Scottish play, I get superstitious to say the actual name, but obviously that's a very established show, but we did our own sort of take on it, and it was incredibly fun and challenging. I, until then, had only done, Shakespeare monologues and a couple little scenes here and there, but I'd never done a full play. So getting to do one, I'll just say whatever, like Macbeth is just, such an exciting opportunity, and it was so much fun, directed by wonderful people and doing it with incredible people. And then my most recent one, pre-shutdown, was Wonderland, which is written by Frank Wildhorn, and that was a very fun experience. I had a really, really good time. It's a show that was on Broadway for, I want to say, I think it was about like a month or two, and it didn't do too well. So we actually were the first sort of group to rework it, and we worked with Frank Wildhorn. We worked with an incredible director, an incredible writer. The scripts, it was changing every single day. We'd get new pages, which is something I personally hadn't really done before. So that was a really cool experience to be so flexible. And I remember on opening night, we cut a song. So it was all over the place, but in like the best possible way, and it was so much fun. And it was also like a very heavy dance show, and dancing, of acting, singing, and dancing is definitely like my lowest one. Like, I definitely consider myself more of an actress and singer, so that was a really, really good way to grow. But I had so much fun with that. It was such a blast. And then the Magic Flute, was doing the Magic Flute, one of the greatest and most famous operas of all time, and that was so much fun because we put a completely different spin on it, and it was so cool, singing in a different language on a very big stage, and it was a really, really good time.
That's amazing. The fact that you have been involved in so many things here and there, that I think that besides the whole learning experience, it also makes you also grow as a person, right? Like the fact that you can get involved into a lot of things, meet like a lot of new people here and there, and also that the fact that you're kind of on the same room, which is kind of expressing, I mean, creating art. That is so cool.
Oh, it's amazing. And that's one thing that I'm so thrilled that, you know, Broadway is back and we're starting to, you know, slowly get back into live theater, especially after, you know, a year and a half, almost 2 years of not having it. It's been so thrilling to, you know, I'm a senior at NYU. I was supposed to graduate last year, and then COVID ruined everything like it did for a lot of people. And getting to be, I mean, even just the simple act of singing on a stage in front of others has been such an incredible experience to have after not being able to do it for the longest break I'd ever had. Not doing theater for a year and a half was the longest break I've ever had since literally elementary school. So it's been really, really wonderful to be back in that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Now tell me, like, what are some of the things or techniques that you usually do in order to prepare before going on stage? Do you have like I don't know, like a go-to meal, a go-to song, like?
Yeah, well, I have some really good warm-ups that are on my phone, like in my voice memos that I've sort of collected over the years. Like one thing that I was told as an acting student is you sort of accumulate a toolbox of different, you know, tools and warm-ups and things that work for you. I've, you know, for a very long time sort of collected, oh, I like this warm-up does this for my voice, this does this for my diction, this does for all these different things. So I definitely have a lot of warm-ups I do, especially, you know, depending on the show I'm doing, or if I'm singing, or if it's straight play. You know, if I'm doing something like The Crucible or Macbeth, I will do a lot of like diction exercises. Yeah. But if I'm doing, you know, a musical, I'll warm up my singing voice. One thing I also do a lot is I found that listening to music is incredibly helpful to get you into the mindset of a character. I tend to make playlists sometimes per character to sort of get me into what the character is feeling and what they're going through, especially in shows where you're kind of coming in like the middle of the action. Like I remember when I was doing The Crucible, I entered because I played Elizabeth Proctor, and I remember I entered in a very it was a very heightened emotion, and you couldn't just kind of jump into that. So I remember I would listen to music, and I would listen to different instrumentals or words with lyrics to sort of get that mindset. Meals wise, I mean, I'm very cautious to not have dairy because lactose intolerant and does not do good for the voice. Yeah. I love having, like, as boring as it sounds, like salads or soups or pasta. I love a good pasta. Make sure to floss though before I go on stage. But yeah, I'd say those are like the big things. I also do a physical warm-up, even if it's like a regular play. I'll still do a really good stretch in all parts of my body just to sort of get my body into it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely differs per show, for sure. Okay, cool. Now, moving into your regional theater section, we'll see the play The Beauty and the Beast. So tell me about your character and what are some of the things that you enjoyed about it? Sure. So this was actually my second time doing Beauty and the Beast, and Disney has been a very big part of my life, and I think we're probably going to talk about that later on. Yeah. But yeah. So it was my first regional production, and I mean, I love Beauty and the Beast. It was so wonderful. And basically, so I played, if anybody knows the show, there's these 3 silly girls. And I was one of them. In the movie, I believe called The Bimbettes, which is a very interesting name. And then I was also the understudy for Belle, which was really, really exciting. It was my first official time understudying Belle, but my second time kind of doing it. When I had done it the first time, I'd also understudied her, even though I didn't have like the title of Belle understudy. But that was honestly one of the hardest experiences I've actually ever done in theater, because first of all, dancing is not my strongest suit. So the Silly Girl track, it's a very dancey track. So I remember I was very surprised when I got cast in that, because they're featured dancers within the show, especially in the song Gaston, if you know that song. And one thing that was also really tricky is every scene that Belle is not in, the Silly Girls are in, and vice versa. So I think in the entire rehearsal process, I had one night off when everybody else would be like, oh, I'm gonna go chill at home. I'm like, I'm at the theater. And that was really tricky because I had never officially had to learn 2 tracks, and I actually never had to put in. I had only a couple little rehearsals here and there to kind of learn the track. So it was very dependent on myself, and thankfully my other cast members who were lovely and were like, hey, during this break, do you want to run this? Because I wasn't getting, because I don't think they had anticipated that they told me that this was the first time ever having an official understudy before. Yeah. And so I don't think had fully figured it out. And I remember that, yeah, I had some really, really wonderful cast members, like the guy who played Gaston, the guy who played the Beast, Mrs. Potts. We'd all kind of go off to the side during our breaks and we're supposed to just be relaxing. And they're like, let's run this. And I remember like 2 days before the show, they're like, we should probably have you do some of these big numbers so that way if you have to go on, you don't like kill anybody. And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. But everyone was so lovely, and it was just so interesting having to learn 2 tracks like that, and 2 tracks that differ so much, especially because I unfortunately did not get to go on Isabel. Hopefully one day I will. She's my favorite. I love her. But that character means so much to me that I was like, if I do get the opportunity to go on, I want to half do it. I want to really, you know, have her be my own. And I also didn't want to copy what our other actress was doing. And she was wonderful. Oh my gosh. But I was like, I want to make this my own. So it was, you know, working on the songs separately. Thankfully, though, the music director and the choreographer I had become friends with, and they were like, let's work on this, you know. Everyone was very, very supportive, but I had never gotten, like, let's run the whole show. Yeah, yeah. Which was definitely a little stressful, to say the least. But it was a really good learning experience, and I definitely would want to do it again.
That's so amazing. That's badass, amazing, epic.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know what else to say, but besides being a badass and amazing, that's so cool. Wow.
Thanks so much.
You know,
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet. You know, like the name of my brother is actually Gaston.
Oh, well, there you go. That's amazing. Yeah. I would love to do Beauty and the Beast again.
Yeah, I can totally agree on that. Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite films back when I was little. You know.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of those like you must need to see it for sure.
Oh my god, yeah, 100%.
Totally. Now, like, how you usually prepare a character before a play? Do you have like a technique you always do, or a thing you do?
So that's a really good question. I'm really familiar with the Uta Hagen technique, and that's something what I really love doing is figuring out, you know, a character's objective in each scene, a character's relationships within each scene, and the relationship not only to the people but to the setting that they're in. So one thing that I have is I sort of have this breakdown on the computer, and I'll do it with pretty much every character I do, even if they're, you know, a tiny ensemble part here and there, or if they're lead. And I'll basically go through every single scene that they're in, and I will be like, okay, every other person in this scene, what is my relationship to them? Am I meeting them for the first time? Have I already spent time with them? Have I had a romantic relationship with them? Am I friends with them? What is that relationship? Especially with the ones that I primarily interact with. Yeah. Then I also go through the setting. So for example, when I was doing Beauty and the Beast, even as like a silly girl, I was like, okay, what is my relationship to the tavern? When I was doing the bell work, I was like, okay, she's in the castle for the first time. What are all of the feelings that she's feeling? What are all of the, you know, the relationship to each prop and each set piece? What do you feel about it? Because I feel like that gives the most fleshed out you can be, instead of just being like, I'm gonna learn the lines and the director told me to stand here, so I'm gonna do that. You want to dig into those things and really understand their relationship and all of that. And then also going through every single scene they're in and being like, okay, even if the character doesn't realize in the moment, but what is my objective in this scene? What am I trying to obtain? What am I trying to obtain not only from the scene itself, but from my, you know, scene partner? Yeah. So that's something that I have like a very analytical way of going about it, because that's something that just helps me get into a character. So I would say those are like my biggest things that I kind of do.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I do think that it's that I mean, and I've seen it also throughout like my whole show here with the interviews, that acting goes far more than just learning your lines. Oh my God, you could tell sometimes whenever there will be a performance that they just learn the lines and that's it. It looks like a cardboard box.
Well, that's the thing. We're always told that you never want to look like you're acting. You want to look like you're being. And I think that's a really important thing to remember. It's like, even if we're seeing a mythological character on screen, we want to understand that person and relate to them and understand their motivation. And if you just do the very big surface level work, like learning my lines, I stand here, I talk to this person, it's bland. It's, as you said, it's like cardboard. So it's so important to be able to understand those relationships, because the more detailed you go, the better your performance is going to be. And that's something I've learned with time, because that's, you know, when I was younger, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna learn my lines, I'm gonna learn the song, I'm gonna do this. And it's boring and it's bland. And, you know, that might be fine when you're growing up, but when you want to do this professionally, literally anybody can go learn how to do that. Anybody can learn and memorize lines or go stand and talk to this person. It's finding that character's motivation and objective and who they are and making them as human, and, you know, making that connection between the audience is just so, no matter what media you're doing.
Totally. Now, what are some of the things that you enjoy the most about preparing and playing a character? Because I think that that one of the good things here, or one of the amazing things to play a character, is that you get the chance to be somebody else. You get the chance also to learn kind of new things, and also it's kind of a break of yourself for a bit, to be like, you know, to push you away for a bit so you can be somebody else for a while. So, like, what are some of the things that you love the most about preparing and playing a character?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. There's truly nothing else I want to do with my life. As you said, it's really refreshing, nice to kind of step out of your own skin for a little bit and put, you know, whatever problems that you have, kind of leave them at the door. Like, one thing I especially love with live theater, because you're able to do it so many times, you know, film and television is only something I'm starting to get into, and I love it, and I love the differences between the two. But with, you know, theater, because you get to do it so many times, you know, you get to do it, you know, if you're lucky, 8 times a week, you leave it all at the door. You're able to come in and step into another person's shoes and experience life as that person. Now, with the cool thing with acting is, and witnessing acting is, it's a snapshot of a person's life. You're not seeing their whole life, you know, unless you're like watching a movie that goes from the person's birth to the end of their life. But even then, it's so interesting because it's a snapshot, and you're able to kind of step into those shoes and leave your issues, whatever you're dealing with, at the door. And, you know, as human beings, we're constantly dealing with tragedies and hard things in life. And one thing that's so refreshing as an actor is to be able to just leave that at the door and go somewhere else. And I love that. And I love also, I find with every character I play, no matter how minuscule or how large they are, you learn something from them, you know, and that helps you grow as a person. I mean, you're learning and witnessing other experiences, and that's something that's so special, and you can't do that in any other profession unless you're an actor. You know, you can't, it helps you understand the human condition, and that's something that's incredibly powerful and that I love.
Totally. Now, what would you say it's an important aspect for storytelling?
What do you mean, like how acting is an important aspect of storytelling?
Yeah, like let's say that like for example, we're gonna have like this play. So what do you think that it's an important aspect for the story for that play to be a successful one, like the writing or the character? What do you think that it's important to know?
So I mean, I think it's such a collaborative effort. You know, not only do you need a good script, you need a good writing team, you need a good directing team, you need good producers, you need good actors, you need good musicians, all of it. I think that one thing that's also so exciting about acting, whether or not it's a stage show or a film or a television show, it's such a collaborative effort. So every single person, every single job means something, whether you're acting and you're the lead actor, or you're doing lighting, or you're working as an intern, or you're the director, or you're the writer. One thing that's so cool about that is it's such a collaborative effort. And like every single person, their role is so important, and you couldn't do it without them. So that's one thing that I love about it. It's not, you know, everyone sort of is like, oh, go focus on the actors. And like one thing, you know, obviously great, you want to pay attention to them, but also you have to pay attention to every single person who makes it happen. The set decorators, the lighting team, the producers, the director, the makeup artists, the costume designers. It's a very collaborative effort, and that's something that's so special. So I think that's also one thing. It's a job that requires everybody to come together. It's not just dependent on one person.
Yeah, totally. And we will see like a lot of like let's say like mainstream actors who will go back to theater because of the whole experience. And I do think also that at the end of the day you end up being like a family, or like this big team in which we all need everybody to work at the proper time, and we will support each other. Otherwise, if someone falls, a lot of pieces can fall as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's literally everyone is together with it. And it's, you're right, you do become such a family. You're being so vulnerable, and you're letting people see other sides of yourself that you might not show on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So that's why, also being comfortable in a theatrical setting is so important. And that's one thing also with like intimacy directors that are starting to come into light. Like, people don't realize how many people are involved in either, again, a production or a film or TV production or any other sort of acting medium. There's so many different levels and so many different connections that it's so important to be able to be comfortable with each other. It's so important. And I think sometimes in the past we'd kind of gloss over that. But now with a lot of, things coming to light in the theatrical and the film industry, it's really important to bring those people that make others feel comfortable and make them feel valid in whatever feelings come up.
Yeah, totally. I agree on that. 100% on that. Yeah. Now, we will see also on your resume the professional theater section. Then we will see the play History of Light. So tell me about your character and also about the play as well.
Sure. So that was a little while ago. It was really, really fun because I got to work with Greg Edelman, who was a very big name in the theatrical community. And it was really cool because it was a musical, but with the music of Gilbert and Sullivan. So it was an operetta with a bunch of different Gilbert and Sullivan songs telling a completely different story.
Yeah.
And it was a staged reading, which was really fun, and I got to play a bunch of different characters. And it was a really great time, and I got to work with a lot of older actors that I, might have not known as well, and getting to work with Greg Edelman, who's a really big name in the theater community and has like won Tony. He's a really big person to work with, so to work with him and just learn from him. And one thing, that I personally love in acting, and especially theater, is you get to learn from everybody around you. So I feel like every single theatrical experience you have just helps you grow. So I loved it.
That's amazing. And I wonder, like, what's the goal that you try to achieve when you are performing on theater?
Ooh, well, my big not end goal, because I don't think you ever have an end goal, is, of course, like Broadway, film, television, that's the dream. But I find that in a specific show, my sort of goal is to just be as present as possible.
Okay.
And that's one thing that's incredibly important when you're performing, is to just be as present as possible. Obviously you want to hit all the notes. You want to, you want to act well. You want to do all of that, but you want to be present. And you want to live as that character. Not saying, method acting, that's not my personal style, and but just being present is so important, and it's hard. It's very hard, because I remember when I was younger, my mom would be like, "Oh, what am I going to go have for dinner tonight?" In the middle of like an intense scene, and it's like, no, you can't let that happen. Granted, you can't shame yourself for that happening, because if it does, you move on. But when you're so present, and you're like, it's not that you're emoting, because I find that that's one of the worst words you can use with acting. Like, I'm gonna go emote. No, that's not acting. It's being the character and letting any emotion that you have as them come from an organic place. And I find that to be my biggest goal whenever I'm performing, just be as present as possible. That's amazing. Thank you.
Now, what do you think it's an important aspect for a play to be a successful one?
Ooh, it's a good question. I would say, again, it's all about the collaboration. I think, a big part of it is the material. Sometimes, I won't name names, but I've done a fair share of shows where the material just is not it. And you're like, this is gonna be interesting. And, you see everyone working their butts off to make it as good as they can. But again, that's, I think, the big part of it. But also, of course, the direction is incredibly important, and if you're able to really connect with your director and have a healthy relationship with them, and to be able to talk about these kind of things, where you're like able to sit down and be like, okay, what is your intention with this character? This is what I'm thinking. Have those collaborative talks. And then of course the acting performances. It's incredibly important to see actors be vulnerable and to see them be rather than act. I think that's sort of my thing that I've been working on as an actor, is just being. Like, just knowing that, like, you are enough, and that you feeling these things as the person is enough. You don't have to go, be like, oh my God, my life sucks. Like, no, that's not acting. So it's all about being. And I find that to be the most important thing. And
that's amazing. That's super cool. Wow. So far I could say you're epic.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet.
Now, if you could describe your career at the moment in a play, what would be the title of it?
I've never gotten asked that before. Oh my god. Like in this moment, I don't know. Because like my life, I'm not allowed to like talk about some of the stuff that's coming up for me, which I'm very excited about because I've signed legal documents. I know. But it's you know, I'm kind of having a turning point in my life right now that I just never sort of saw coming, and I don't know how it's gonna go. So maybe I don't know what I title it because I have truly no idea where my life is going at this point. I have some really exciting things coming up that I'm very excited for, and I hope they go well. I really do, because it could be a big game changer. But kind of, I mean, I don't know what I'd call it, but that's a really good question. I've just never gotten asked that before, so that's so interesting. I'll have to think about that and get back to you.
I got two names. I don't know what you think. The first one would be The Calm Before the Storm.
Ooh.
You know,
I like that.
Deep, you know, it's kind of deep. It's kind of okay.
I like
that. Or the second one, which is Breaking Point. But I think Breaking Point sounds more like a...
That sounds like I'm gonna fall apart.
yeah, and it's kind of the title for like a TV show, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, like whenever I said Breaking
I like Calm Before the Storm. It's kind of, at least this moment in life, this week, is kind of the calm before the storm. I would do that. Literally.
It's intriguing, it's deep. I mean, you don't know what it's what it's about. I mean, you want to know what the storm, so you need to watch it, you know? It gives like that.
I like that. It's fun. The calm before the storm.
There you go. And if at some point you're gonna make like your own film or play about your career, you can go back here and be like, I got a title now, you know? It's like a future investment.
You're like, I'm ready.
There you go. Fantastic. Now, also on your website, we will see Wish Upon a Star voice lessons and princess parties. So tell me, like, where the idea to create that came from.
Yeah, so this has been a really big also part of my life that sort of changed my life for sure. I for a very long time was like, I want to, you know, those princess party companies where they'll go to like birthdays and they'll dress princess and sing and all that, and I always wanted to do that. But I also love teaching. I remember in high school, sometimes I'd help teach the music for the musicals, and I've always kind of loved working with young students and teaching them how to sing, because vocal pedagogy and technique is incredibly important, and I love talking about it. I'm a big nerd about it. So I remember actually it was during the pandemic. I was literally on a walk with my mom, and we were talking because, you know, it kind of sort of, you know, the pandemic is starting to become a bit more real. We were like, oh, this might be a little bit longer than 2 weeks, you know, and I was like, what do I do where I'm not just sitting on my butt? You know, because that's so easy. I think that one thing to do, you know, during the pandemic, it was so easy just to kind of sit there and watch TV. Trust me, nothing wrong with that. But I knew I would go a little stir crazy. So I was literally on a walk from my mom. I remember exactly where we were. I was like, what if I started a company where we teach little kids how to sing while dressed as princesses? And we were like, how would that even work? And then it kind of just started clicking. And I remember that day we went on to like mom groups on Facebook. Yeah. Like, is this something people will be interested in? And we got very good response very fast. And I was like, oh, this is something that there is a market for. So remember, I ordered the costumes, I, you know, got the wigs and the backdrops and the lighting and all of that. And it's something that happened very quick. And it's something that kind of happened out of the blue, but now I've been doing it for almost a little over a year and almost a year and a half. And it's been such a big game changer for me. You know, first of all, it's a way to earn income, which has been great. But one thing that's been so special is it's still a way to perform, even though, you know, because we still are in a pandemic and things are still not great, better, but, you know, we're still in it. And especially in, you know, the thick of the pandemic, I remember just being able to perform. And I'm also a giant Disney fan. I loved it growing up. It means so much to me. Granted, of course, I cannot say that I'm affiliated with Disney because then I could get sued and that would not be good. Disney, please do not sue me. But it's the ability to perform. Then also, I mean, the experiences I've had with these kids and how excited they are is the sweetest thing. I remember I had one kid that I had worked with a couple times because unlike typical princess parties where you'll go to, you know, one party of the kid, you might never see them again. These kids I work with every single week. And I work with as the princess. These kids are like, Rapunzel is my voice teacher. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of how that works. And they'll be like, that person is my voice teacher, that princess is my voice teacher. So getting to see their growth and getting to see these literally these 5-year-olds and these like 6-year-olds understanding vocal technique. And like, I'll kind of tell them, you know, obviously in a more simplified version how to do something, but they'll understand it. I think one thing as a society is we don't give younger people enough credit with how intelligent some of these kids are. And it's unreal to me. Like, I'll be like just telling them these little things and even bringing in sometimes these very technical concepts that are some stuff maybe only I learned a couple months ago. And they'll understand it and they'll do it. I mean, I remember I had one kid that it was the sweetest thing. Well, I'll have 2 little stories. Yeah. One of them I remember I was playing Ariel. I was doing The Little Mermaid. And I remember this kid made a painting and was of Ariel, like me as Ariel, and was like, Ariel, I made a drawing of you. I love you so much. You're my favorite. And I was just like, oh my God. It made me so emotional because I was like, you know, especially during the pandemic when things were so hard and people were losing loved ones. I mean, again, we still are, but it was a really hard time. Being able to bring some joy into other people's lives was so special and so magical, you know, for lack of a better term. And then I remember I had this one other kid, again, I think it was also an Ariel lesson, and we'd done a couple lessons together, and we'd been working on Part of Your World, you know, the very classic Ariel song. And she was like, Ariel, I want to sing for you. And I was like, okay. And so she's literally sang from start to finish Part of Your World using the techniques we had discussed in our voice lesson. And that blew my mind. This 6-year-old was singing and like perfectly on pitch. And it just, her ability to grasp different things meant so much to me because I was like, first of all, that I'm like, you know, making myself happy. I'm like, oh, I must be doing something right. But just seeing these kids have a passion. I mean, I've even worked with some like 2 or 3-year-olds who are obviously a bit too young to sort of grasp those things, but it's developing a love for them, a love and pain for them. And that's so special because I mean, if I had, I mean, granted, I started very young in 4th grade, but like, if I had this, I would have gotten even started earlier. And, you know, some of these kids, they're really good. And I'm, you know, they could literally be the future of performing. So just getting to do that. And I have 3 incredible girls that work with me. And, you know, we've made this like into a legitimate company. And it's also led to a lot of social media exposure for me that I just never really saw happening. Like with TikTok and all of that. Yeah. But it's led to a lot of really exciting things, and I'm just really, really grateful for it. And I, you know, hopefully I'll be able to keep doing this job and working on this company for a long time.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, keep doing it, because I think that the fact that you are, I mean, the fact that you're taking that you're doing that, and also you are making them think and making them like to feel, laugh, like have a good time, and like kind of being away from this whole digital age, you know, that we will see sometimes kids like 4 or 5-year-old which already like iPads, iPhones, and just focus on that and not be watching like what the world is, you know, like I mean at that moment when you're a kid, you should be playing, you should be a kid, you know, not playing on your iPad 24/7. I mean, like go out, learn something. And the fact that you're doing that is super cool. And also the fact that you're making people happy, especially in this very dark, crazy times, that is super cool and that is impressive. And you know what, because of that, I need to give you a quick super shout out. So yeah, here we go.
Oh, that's very that's so sweet.
There you go. Now tell me, like, what can we expect from Alyssa in the future?
Well, I do have some exciting things coming up that I'm not
don't say.
Not legally allowed to share. But
we don't want we don't want any legal problems.
We don't want to go against the NDAs.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. Or any like red dots or something, nothing like that. No.
Yeah, but definitely, you know, keep an eye on my social media because I will be announcing it hopefully soon. You know, if everything goes well, hopefully. I'm gonna, you know, I will be graduating soon, so I'm gonna really be jumping into this as a full-time, which I'm very excited for. There'll be a lot more coming with my company, which I'm very, very excited for. But I'm, you know, really starting to get into a lot more professional theatrical, film, and TV opportunities. So hopefully those come into fruition. There's been some cool little talks of it, so hopefully that happens soon. But definitely, you know, keep an eye out. I'm very excited to sort of see how these next couple of years, where it takes me.
That's amazing. And my last question here, any advice that you could give to those who are recently starting following their dreams?
Oh, I love that. I think the biggest thing, and as corny as it sounds, like just to remember that like you are enough and everything that you do is enough. You know, you, especially in acting, but in any profession, and when you're trying to follow your dream, there are going to be people that tear you down. There's going, especially on the internet, trust me, I've had my fair share of haters. Everybody does, because you're able to hide behind, you know, your phone or your technology, and you're being rude. And I find that, you know, social media obviously is great, but it can also be incredibly dangerous. Yeah. And you in a very vulnerable, dark place. And I think that it's really important as someone who's following their dreams, block out all the way. And that's something that I've struggled with a lot, and that's something that I've been learning, you know, especially as I've gotten more involved in media and more of a presence online with my company and with performing. Yeah. People are going to, that's just the inevitable. It sucks, but it's true. It's up to you to not let them win. And it's up to you to constantly remember that like you have nothing to prove, only to share. That you have the ability to share your gift, and that's beautiful, and that you are enough, and that you, everything that you do is valid and important and powerful, and to go just be and share your gifts with the world. And also never stop learning. Like I find for the rest of my life, I'm going to take class. I'm going to take voice lessons. I'm going to take dance classes. I'm going to take acting classes. I'm going to continue learning, because especially if you're an actor, you're learning about the human experience. That never stops. And I find that in any field, just immersing yourself in education and learning from the others around you, no matter what level you are, is incredibly powerful and important. So I'd say those are my big things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's so amazing. I mean, yeah. I love him. Yeah, that's true. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to be focused. You need to focus on you, and also do not pay attention of, because as you said, I mean, you're gonna have people who don't like what you do, and that's fine. But the important here is for not you to change, you know, because we could see sometimes that in order like to please somebody, you could, I mean, they will change. But if you change in order to please somebody else, it's not going to be you. And at some point, you're going to hate it. And at some point, you're just going to stop doing it and just waste that thing. You know what I mean?
For sure. Definitely.
Yeah. You know, I would definitely would be saying drop the mic. But since I don't have any mic for you, I don't even have my hard drive. So I would say drop the hard drive. And yeah, I mean, you are so talented here, so amazing here. I mean, if someone would tell me right now, how could I describe you? I will be only saying this.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
And I mean, at the end of the day, Alyssa, keep doing what you do. I mean, it's amazing. There's a lot of people here who love what you do. Keep doing it. Keep killing it, because we need more talented people like you, and we need more people who can share like more positivity and more good vibes. And the fact that you're doing that with acting, that is so amazing. So make sure that you continue pursuing that, because you are doing it perfectly. So.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. And also, thank you so much for those who tuned in here. If you're watching this later on YouTube or listening to this later on the podcast, make sure that you're following Alyssa. Normally, what I would say is for you to put pause, then leave a like, subscribe real quick, and then hydrate, and then follow Alyssa, leave a million likes, support all her content, share, spread the word that we have a talented, badass, epic, superwoman here, and then come back. And again, Alyssa, thank you so much. Keep having an amazing rest of the day, an amazing evening, an amazing weekend, an amazing everything. And I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.